No, y'all, can we talk about it? Can we please talk about it? Let's take a moment to discuss. Let's take a moment to debrief. Let's take a moment to unpack. So I'm not really understanding why they're not telling y'all. Like, we all know that the world is behind, like, globally, like, because of the pandemic and stuff. But I don't understand why they're not stressing to y'all how bad it is. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny, but these kids are... I'm going to just say this. I teach 7th grade. They are still performing on the 4th grade level. I don't care how you flip it, turn it, swing it, swindle it. They still performing on the 4th grade level. Ain't nobody talking about how they just keep moving, passing them on. They just keep passing them on, 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 passing them on. I can put as many zeros in this grade book as I want to. They're gonna move that child to the 8th grade next year. Ain't nobody talking about that. Why they not talking about that? Why they not telling y'all that y'all... And why don't y'all know that y'all kids not performing on their grade level? Why y'all don't know this? Why y'all don't know? Talk about it. Let's unpack. Because y'all be quick to talk about, oh, the teacher this, the teacher this, the teacher. It's your job, baby. I just got here 30 days ago. She was performing on the 4th grade level since 4th grade. Why we not talk? Well, let's talk about it. You the teacher. You supposed to be, again, she's been on the 4th grade level since the 4th grade. We in 7th grade now. So you let this child go 3 years and you never knew that your child was still in the 4th grade, ain't never left the... Hang it up, flat screen. And 4th graders being nice. I still have kids performing on grade K, 1, 2, and 3rd grade levels. I could probably count on one hand how many kids are actually performing on their grade level. So just imagine, you don't know that your child been on the 2nd grade level since the 2nd grade, and they now in the 7th or 8th grade? Are you joking right now? And these are future leaders, our future doctors, our future nurses, our future... Please, please.
It's Bree. Welcome back to my channel. I'm back in another video, and I'm here to talk about this video that has literally been taking the internet by storm. A lot of people are discussing this particular topic, and I think it's a very important topic to cover, which is the fact that a lot of kids are experiencing some setbacks due to COVID, and honestly just the nature of the education system. So this video had popped up from this teacher that was talking about his students being behind. And this video had first popped up on my TikTok, but I didn't watch it at first, so I had like saved it for later, because sometimes I'll do that. Like if a video pops up on my feed but I can't watch it right then, sometimes I'll like save it so I can watch it later, even though I rarely go back to watch it, but in my mind, like, that's the intent, right? So then I saw the same video pop up on Twitter and everybody was talking about it, and I'm like, okay, this video is really taking off. Then I see a lot of the major blog sites on Instagram posted, so I'm like, okay, maybe I should come on here and talk about this, because I actually do have some thoughts about what he discussed in this video. And so you guys probably saw, I'm pretty sure I put the video at the beginning of this video, where basically this teacher talked about how his 7th grade students are still performing at a 4th grade level, and it brought about a lot of discussions about how a lot of kids nowadays are just behind academically. A lot of them lack a lot of the basic skills that you would know at that age. A lot of them are struggling to read, to write, to do math. I literally just seen a tweet, and I'll post it if I can find it, but there was another teacher that had came online and said that or basically she posted, I think it was a spelling test or something from an 8th grader. Ooh, it was bad. I mean, I've seen 1st graders do better than some of the answers I saw on that test. And it brought about a lot of different discussions as to why this is the case. Now, his main concern was with COVID and how COVID has impacted a lot of the development in children, and not just high school students or middle school students. I mean, it's literally across the board, literally from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. You're seeing a lot of, children and teenagers being underdeveloped. Again, not even just with their academic skills, but even with their social skills. And I feel like even some adults have experienced this as well. Not so much with the academic side, because again, a lot of us have already been in school, gotten degrees and all of that. But just socially, I mean, everything changed after COVID. I think a lot of people realized, especially when we were coming out of it, that the world that we knew prior to COVID was long gone. And, it really did change a lot of, how the world, works. And I know that when everything was shut down and people were forced to do things online, a lot of people were not supportive of that because of the fact that some people, everyone doesn't learn the same, right? Everyone doesn't retain information the same. Trying to learn information in an online setting is more difficult for, some students than others, right? Like some people, they can sit there, you just give them the textbook or give them work to do and they can just figure it out on their own, right? But some people didn't thrive the best in that setting. But at the time, we didn't have a choice because the world was shut down. We had this whole global pandemic. And even though I always say that, was needed to, figure out what was going on and to keep everybody safe, you also can't neglect the effects of it, right? I mean, even if you're doing it to keep everybody safe and for the health of the general public, you also have to acknowledge that with that came some sacrifices. Everybody had to make sacrifices. I mean, people sacrificed their graduations, their proms. People sacrificed a lot during the pandemic. And a lot of people lost a lot during the pandemic. And we are now starting to see a lot of the after effects of the pandemic, whether it be with the economy, whether it be with the job market, and now with schooling. A lot of kids are now behind academically, and a lot of teachers have been speaking out about this for a while. I've even seen some teachers say that they've been talking about this since before COVID, that a lot of these kids have been behind since even before COVID. There was like this one particular teacher I saw, and she was like, yeah, don't blame COVID because a lot of these students have been behind. And so that then brings about another conversation of like, okay, so if it wasn't the pandemic, then what is it? And a lot of teachers, and I've been really empathetic towards teachers, right? Because they go through a lot and they've been going through a lot, and you've been seeing teachers in massive numbers quitting. A lot of teachers they're quitting because they just feel helpless in the current school system, literally across the country. A lot of teachers just feel very hopeless. They feel like there's really nothing that they can do for these kids because a lot of them just aren't even trying, and a lot of them haven't been given the adequate support from not only their administration but also from parents. And that's where this whole conversation led to, about the responsibilities of a parent when it comes to their child's education. There's been a lot of discussion about how involved parents need to be when it comes to, their child and their learning. And, it brought about a lot of different perspectives. And now I'll say for me, right? And again, I'm not I'm not here to brag or anything, but I was a pretty smart kid in school. Like, I consistently made A's and B's, and learning wasn't ever something that I really struggled with. I mean, obviously when I got to high school and I started taking AP classes and dual enrollment classes, some of the college level classes in high school, that's when I more so started to struggle. But also everybody was low-key struggling in those classes, so I didn't feel like I was super behind. But also even the fact that I got to a place academically where I could take college classes in high school, I think goes to show how far I went academically, right? And so I never really needed any extra help like that. And also I will say too, coming from a single parent household, because I did see a lot of people say I was raised by a single parent, but they still made sure to check my homework and to help me with homework. I could honestly say my mom never helped me with homework. And not to say that she wouldn't have if I asked her to, but it really was just that she even couldn't wrap her mind around some of the things that I was learning, and so she couldn't really help me. And so I just was fortunate enough that I could pick up on the material pretty easily on my own without any extra help, right? However, my mom did encourage me to read. I read a lot as a child, and I actually want to get back into reading now that I'm done with school, because honestly, once I got to a lot of those college level classes, and once I started college in general, there was so much extra reading I had to do for classes and stuff that I didn't want to read or I didn't feel like reading, that I didn't really have a lot of space to read books for fun or read books for enjoyment, because a lot of my time was spent reading books for, you know, tests and quizzes and exams and essays. And so I never really had time to just read to read. Like reading became exhausting at one point. And so now that I'm done with school, I do want to get back into reading again. It's one of the things that I want to do when I get like my own apartment. And granted, no, I don't have to wait until I get my own apartment to start reading again, but I think it would just be better if I could again have my own space and then have my own like bookshelf where I can collect books that I want to read. Because right now I just don't have, like, I literally don't have space anywhere in my room for like extra books or anything. And so, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so my mom always made sure that I was reading, not just during the school year, but also over the summer. And I also remember too, my school having like little like programs and stuff for school. Like they literally had programs like summer reading programs where if you read a certain amount of books or if you read certain books that you would be able to get some type of like prize or something like that. Like they always had incentives to make sure that you were always reading. And yeah, so I just feel like a lot of those like incentives are missing. And it was actually kind of sad to see some of the parents' responses to this video. A lot of people were condemning this teacher for even speaking out. But honestly, again, teachers have been saying this for a while now and no one's been listening. And so I think he finally was able to bring this conversation to the forefront. And instead of parents like taking it in and understanding where he's coming from, they're instead attacking him, saying that he was wrong. And listen, I didn't take it as he was calling his students dumb. Like, I didn't take it as that at all. A lot of people took it that way, like, oh, he's on here calling his students dumb. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that there needs to be some type of changes that are happening to help these children, because these school districts are literally just passing them along to the next grade and they're literally not like prepared at all. And that's unacceptable. And so I saw a lot of teachers chiming in saying that, like, listen, like, we can only do but so much, but if the parents don't care enough about their child's education, then like, what are we supposed to do? Because we also see time and time again where you'll have a student who is either being disruptive or they're just not trying at all, and then you call the parents in and the parents get mad at the teacher or they get mad at the principal for calling them in because their child isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so it's like, you don't have anyone holding the child accountable. You don't have anyone holding the parents accountable for their child. And it's just this ongoing system. And again, it used to not be like that. Like back in the day, if you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing and your parents got called into the office, that was like that used to be like frightening. That used to be the scariest thing, to have them call your mom or your dad to come to school because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. That used to be terrifying. And again, you can't say that for all. You know, there's always going to be those parents who, you know, aren't involved and don't care. But I feel like for a lot of us, we grew up with parents that cared. And it's like, if they heard that you were behind, they would then start to implement things at home to help you. They would start helping you with your homework. They would hire tutors. I've heard of people, even though this is a little extreme, and I'm glad my mom didn't do this, but I've heard of people saying that, you know, yeah, like my parents had me doing workbooks over the summer, or my parents had me do little you know, math equations or whatever over the summer. Like, I feel like parents like aren't invested enough and they don't care enough to make sure that their child is doing right. And not even just with learning, again, even with like the way that they behave. Like, I've seen, it's crazy because I literally saw a tweet that said, oh, if a kid saw their teacher on TikTok talking about them like this, I wouldn't blame them if they would go and beat the teacher up. And I'm just like, see, it's that kind of mindset that explains why these kids are the way that they are, because they literally have zero consequences and these parents are just allowing them to just do whatever. And it's really, really sad. But then someone actually did bring up a good point that I saw as well, which is that with a lot of these parents, right, some of them don't have the capacity to be there and to offer extra support for their child, because with the way that the economy is right now and with the way that, you know, society is right now, everyone is being worked to the max right now just to keep up bills, just to keep up with being able to take care of themselves and take care of their families. A lot of people right now are working two to three jobs just trying to get by, right? And so when you are in a situation, right, where you're having to work constantly to try to keep clothes on everybody's back and food in everybody's mouths doesn't even allow for extra time and extra space to be there for your child in the way that they need you to, as opposed to back in the day where you could get by with one parent taking care of the entire household. And then, like in a traditional sense, right? So like you have the father, and that's again assuming that you have a two-parent household. A lot of us don't come from two-parent households, but I'm just speaking hypothetically, right? Back in the day, you could have a situation to where the father is the one that goes out, works, and provides for the family, and then the mother is able to be at home and help their child with their education. But today, a lot of people are not able to do that. Today, with the way the economy is now, it requires now both parents to work full time. And it's like, does that even allow for either one of them to be available for their child in the way that the child deserves? There's some arguments to be made there. I just think that right now, everything is just messed up right now. Everything is just completely messed up. And there's a lot of changes that need to happen across the board. Obviously, that's easier said than done. And obviously, we have a long way to go in that regard. But I think for the time being, I think that parents should do what they can to help and to hold their children accountable and to make sure that they are, actually learning before progressing to the next grade. I do think that that's crazy that 7th graders are performing at the level of a 4th grader. I do think that's crazy. And I think that as a parent, I would feel some type of way if that was my child, and I would not feel comfortable with that, and I would not be okay with that. And I do think COVID has a little bit to do with it, because again, it's like with COVID, everything was just so like uncertain, and people were just trying to figure out how to get by and how to deal with being in school and being at work in a remote setting. And I think it was a lot. And of course, I can imagine, right, being in high school and having classes over Zoom. People probably were not paying attention. People probably found all types of ways to, cheat on their tests. And even though they've implemented some safeguards now, I can still imagine, especially when the pandemic first happened, how people kind of finessed their way around certain things. But now that everyone's back in school and back in person, I was like, oh, I wasn't really learning much. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think COVID has a little bit to do with it. I think just the overall school system and just the issues there comes into play. But then also the parents, like I said, because I literally saw parents on Twitter saying that, it's the teacher's job to teach, and I have nothing to do with that. Like, I am not held responsible for my child's education at all. And I think just having that mindset, I think is a little disheartening. And I honestly think that if that's how you think and you don't really care about if your child is actually learning the material, I don't think you should be a parent. Sorry. And again, I'm not speaking to the ones that just genuinely can't contribute because of work or whatever it is. I'm talking about the ones that actively are like, I don't care. I'm not gonna try. Like, I'm just gonna send my child off to school, and whatever happens. Like the ones that just like don't care about their child's development at all, I think that's extremely problematic as well. But yeah, honestly, I'm glad this video that he made happened. I'm glad that people are starting to talk about some of these things now, because yeah, again, it's like we can see like the decline. And we've talked about how a lot of people have struggled socially because of the pandemic. I mean, even I've experienced that to a certain degree. Like, I mean, I've always been an introvert and I've always been a homebody, but I definitely went out more prior to the pandemic, and then after the pandemic I just became like a straight homebody, because I was just so used to sitting around in the house, not going nowhere and not doing nothing, that even when the world started to open back up, it was hard to readjust. And I know a lot of people who I went to college with that also experienced that same thing. Like, you had some people that were like, rushing to get back outside, but then you had others that just kind of had a harder time. And you even see now with the job market, like a lot of these companies are trying to force people into going back into the office when it's really not necessary. And some people have proven to be successful working from home, but then others, they may need that office environment. So I just think that, again, I hope that these conversations that are now happening spark some type of change, because yeah, just something needs to change. But honestly, I do think it boils down to the parents, because like I said, the teachers can only do but so much and the school can only do but so much. But if the parents are not gonna be there to help their child or to care enough about their child and their development, is like, well, what do you do in that moment when you don't have that support? You know, you can't help somebody that doesn't want the help. And if you're a child that is struggling and you're coming from a household that also doesn't care whether or not you are learning the material and if you're doing well in school, then it's like, why should the child care? Like, if their parents don't care, then why would they care? You know what I mean? And so I do think that the parents have a really big role in that, and they should care enough to become more involved, whatever that looks like for them, and at whatever capacity they are able to help and contribute. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below about what you think about just the current state of the school system within itself. Are you seeing personally that a lot of children and teenagers aren't developing at the rate that they should be? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys go ahead, give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.